Hey, what's up everyone? Spring is finally in session and it is one of the most popular times for people to come and visit Seattle. The weather is actually not gross anymore and the cherry blossoms are in full bloom. So today I am taking us to the best place to see cherry blossoms in Seattle, the Quad at the University of Washington. Let's go! Alrighty, we have just parked at UW. We are about a half mile from the Quad, and I'm actually amazed that I found parking. Usually parking is impossible to find here, but that's because people come on weekends. I'm actually here at like 8:30 a.m. on a Monday, so that probably explains why. But it gets so crowded because this is arguably the #1 spot to check out cherry blossoms in Seattle, especially during full bloom. So the full bloom time frame changes year to year and it's dependent on the weather. It's typically in between mid-March to mid-April, but if I had to pick a week, I'd probably say the first week in April. Oh, and full bloom is when about 70% of the cherry blossoms are blooming. So walking around, I can see why UW was named one of the most beautiful college campuses in America. All of the buildings have this older style of architecture, and to me that adds a lot of character and it tells a story about the history of this campus. I think it's really cool and it low-key reminds me of Hogwarts. Anywho, I've been walking around for about 5 minutes and we are finally coming up to the Quad. Alright, I am now standing directly in front of the Quad. Let's go check it out. So walking around the Quad, you have this amazing feeling of being surrounded by color. Unfortunately, the sun is no longer outside, which is a typical Seattle thing, but it's so pretty here. And if you look around me, you can say that the crowd is starting to pick up a little bit. It's about, I don't know, 9:45 a.m., classes are in session, more people are starting to show up. This couple is actually filming some stuff for their wedding, and people are just here for all the activities. But if you're crowd conscious, I recommend getting here early in the morning, especially on like a weekday when people aren't here for pictures and picnics and all the other stuff. The university has a live cam linked below to where you can see how busy the Quad is and you can check on the cherry blossoms to see if they're in full bloom. I highly recommend checking that out for about the time that you plan on coming, and especially during that day of the week. Alright, I've been walking for a bit, so let's go pop a squat somewhere. So something the university takes super seriously is the health and the well-being of these trees. These trees are really well loved and almost revered. There are signs everywhere telling you not to climb on the trees, not to mess with the flowers, not to shake the branches. All of these policies are in place so that there's protections for the trees so that everyone can come and see them year after year. So those are all the things you can't do, but let's talk about the things that you can do. You can have a picnic, you can walk around, but most people are taking pictures and videos. So if you look around, almost everyone is taking pictures. This morning I saw people taking pictures for an engagement. I saw some people doing cosplay stuff, which is crazy because it's like 9:30 in the morning, but if you want to get here without having all the crowds around, you need to come early and you need to come on a weekday. Because if you don't do that, there will be hundreds and hundreds of people here. You're going to get in their pictures, they're going to get in your pictures. You can't walk more than 6 feet without getting into another person's picture. It's just madness here. Alternatively, you can come here around sunset, twilight. There will be less people here, but there will still be people, so your mileage may vary. So obviously you can take pictures anywhere in here and you're going to get something nice of you in the trees, but the premier spot to take pictures are on the edges of the courtyard near the entrances. So let's head over there and see if we can get something nice. Okay, so I haven't reviewed any of those pictures and I'm trusting strangers to have good photography skills, which is almost always a bad idea, but here we are. It is a super popular spot and there was a line and I didn't want to hold it up, so I just got it out of there as quickly as I could. So I did a little bit of research before I got here and here's what I learned. There are 29 cherry trees over in the Quad and they are Yoshino cherry trees. So what makes them interesting is that they don't produce any fruit. They're actually purely an ornamental variety from Japan and they have whitish pinkish flowers. There are other cherry trees that produce fruit in Washington like Rainier and Bing and Tart, but that's a story for a different day. So speaking of stories, how did these trees end up here in UW? In the late 1930s, Japan donated a bunch of cherry trees to the United States, specifically Seattle, and this was to show a token of appreciation for friendship and diplomatic relations. and a lot of those early cherry trees ended up in Seward Park and Jefferson Park and the Arboretum at UW. But sometime later, there was a local highway known as 520, and that highway wanted to expand. So those cherry trees got moved out of the UW Arboretum in 1962 and got pushed into the quad. So let's see, it is 2022, moved into 1962, so that's like, I think this will be their 61st bloom in this area, depending on the time of the year. I think that's really cool. However, there is a little bit of concern about these trees. So I just threw out a bunch of dates, but you get the idea that these trees are old. And they're actually about 90-ish years old. And the problem is, these types of cherry trees have an average lifespan of about 100 years. So the good news is that these trees will most likely live longer than their average lifespan because they are wonderfully cared for and loved. But UW has taken some precautions for that, and over the years they've harvested clippings and cuttings from these trees so that they can clone and grow them in other parts of the campus. So if anything were to happen to these trees, there are other cherry trees around that they can be replaced with. So I've spent the past couple of hours walking around the quad, taking pictures and video, and appreciating the beauty of the cherry blossoms. I think it's time to start making my way home. Alright everyone, I am back in my house now after a long day of adventuring, and I'm glad I left when I did because it started raining no more than 5 minutes later. The Seattle weather during the spring is almost there, but not quite. The morning started off so sunny and pretty, and now it's just kind of meh outside. It's kind of gross again. But I'm glad I got out of the house. I'm glad I went to UW and I got to explore the quad, see a bit of the campus, and see all the beautiful cherry trees. It was a really nice experience. And in the making of this video, I learned a lot by researching about the trees, its history, UW, and the quad itself. It was a really nice time, and I hope you enjoyed coming along on this adventure. For now, good luck, have fun, peace.